Okay, time for Baseball Rebellion's Tuesday breakdown, and this is J.K. Whitehead coming to you from the Baseball Rebellion to do it. And today we have a special request. We have Will the Thrill Clark, and if some of you don't remember Will, he was a player who had what was called typically a pretty sweet swing. He's a guy who did really, really well in college at Mississippi State. Him and Rafael Primero played together. They were known as Thunder and Lightning. And if you click down the link below, you can get some more background on Will and his stats, some of his background stuff. I want to take most of the time to go through the swing, obviously, today. But you're going to see some stuff that in his swing in particular, that we really, really like, especially from the waist down. But you're going to also see some things that he did that might have hindered him a little bit, especially in the lifting of the balls, the positions he puts his upper body in. If you can't already tell, is not something that we promote a ton here. You saw this a lot in the time period. You saw a lot of hunched over, bent at the waist. You saw a lot of this tilt coming from his waist over the plate. You can see how aggressive he is leaning in. You saw that a lot this time frame, this time period. And it's just kind of the way instruction was and coaching, hitting instruction and coaching was done at the time. But we'll get into that here in a second. So I think the first thing that most people are going to see, and I'm just going to play these through real quickly, is you're going to see the movement forward, and you're really going to see the explosive lower half. And then we're going to go to another side view from the front, though, this time. This is with his time with the Giants, obviously. But you can really see that movement forward. As he starts his momentum building phase. He really liked to get going, which is fantastic. Something that we try to promote a lot here. And again, it's really funny how many coaches are afraid of that movement. Coaches who were playing or were maybe just young coaches starting out during this, the Will Clark era, who are now coaches or older coaches who are so afraid of that movement, yet they loved guys like Will Clark. And so it's always kind of funny to me. That they are so afraid of it. So don't be afraid of it. Let that movement happen. You just got to learn how to teach it and learn how to describe it and control it. But the first thing, obviously, is that movement. So you can see the camera actually having to follow him out. You can really see the distance his back leg gets. And we're going to start from the waist down. We're going to work our way up. But you can really see the length. I mean, his back toe is just holding on to the ground as long as it can, so you can get all that stretch in the back. And you can really see that difference. Now, we can also see, unfortunately, we see again another closed front foot guy. A semi-closed, not all the way closed, but you can we can see the very back of his kneecap, which means, he didn't really allow that front side to open. Now, some of the posture things he's doing with his chest, you can see his chest really leaning forward over, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but all that matters, and the more you kind of bend over like that, if you guys want to stand up right now and try that, it's really tough. If you lean over that much and then try to open up your hips and try to open up your front foot, try to open up your front knee from your stomach, it's really hard to do when you lean over that much. So, I didn't want to start talking about the upper half too soon, but you got to understand that all these positions and movements in the sequence work together. And if something is hindering another thing, especially when it comes to hip rotation, then that's something we got to really pay attention to and see if we can't do better. Because as we all know, hip rotation and hip and shoulder separation, speed, and things like that are really at the top of the list of things to be good at if you want to become a more powerful hitter. So, if I had to grade it, I'd say his movement forward was an A+, but, because of his posture and the landing, I'd give, the landing part definitely, at best a B. And probably worse than that if I was being really picky. But I love how he gets that movement forward, not afraid to get going, a guy who understood it. Now you can see that as his front heel, if we pay attention, as his front heel lands to plant and firm up, we can see his back heel start to come up. So you can see that that relationship there. If you also notice, if you pay attention up here to the top of his belt loops, you can see his belt loops start to show up as we go back and forth between those frames. So that means he's opening up. As he's putting down his heel, he's opening up his hips, and then here comes his back heel. So there's that relationship there as well, okay? As he goes to turn, again, still pay attention to the lower half the most here. Really get a lot of belt loop rotation now. The part where you can see the blue in his belt is really easy to see here, which is nice because sometimes the video quality isn't always as good. And so if you're breaking down the swing yourself, coaches, dads, whoever may be out there, pay attention to certain things like belt loops and things like that. If the video quality is not that good, you can really make some good discoveries of your own. But we obviously see something that we promote a lot here at the Baseball Rebellion is that really nice aggressive back foot movement forward. You're going to really see him allow his back hip to rotate through a lot, and as at the same time, you can see how firm he stays along this front side so that he can turn and bring his backside through. Now again, you can see how his knee and his front foot don't really spin out too much through the swing, and so you can really imagine what's going on inside of his knee capsule there and his ankle, and even up in his hip as well, what might be kind of grinding in there because it's not the safest position to put yourself in. So that's something that, again, we teach a lot. And you can't really finish it all. You notice it's his back foot kind of, and I won't say it drags, but it just doesn't get all the way through. Again, I think because of how he locks up that front side a little bit too much. It's firm, which is really, really good. That's what you want. But because it doesn't open or is allowed to open through his stomach rotation is going to really keep him from getting that backside completely through. Now, obviously, he was good enough to be an all-star 4 or 5 years, but as a first baseman, his home run numbers weren't super exciting and or super comparable to other first basemen of the era. So perhaps maybe some swing improvements here would have helped him get a little bit more drive on the ball, a little more rotation, a little more speed, and maybe some of the doubles he'd off the wall would become bombs, and who knows what he could have hit. But either way, he's a great hitter, but definitely some things he could have done better from the lower half down. All right, so moving on up through the top half, and this is another swing of his from the side view. Again, we can look at the lower half just again real quick. As we can see, the front side not opening up upon impact with the ground. Here comes the back half again, doing a great job of coming through, but again, he doesn't quite get as much, and you can see his foot want to then roll out of there. So moving up through the swing just a little bit here, after having a pretty decent lower half, great movement forward. We're going to talk about this, the hunch over. So you can really see if you go back and watch video of guys in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s and a little bit past that, you can really see some hunched over positions here, and some of that was because what was commonly taught of the time to kind of preset some positions, especially with that tilt. And unfortunately, the tilted position from the waist over, so kind of leaning your head past your belly button over the plate, really is kind of a visual trick when they see guys hit low pitches, because the ability to lift balls and get to lower pitches comes from a side bend from your shoulder to your waist, shoulder to your hip, and so not from your head leaning over the plate that much. And so what we're going to see Will do here is, as he goes forward and gets to that nice lengthened out position, you can see him still hunched over, and then as he tries to rotate, you're going to see him sit up. So I'm going to draw this line right here, and you can see him actively try to get taller so he can get to this side, but now he's in the side bend position. So you can see where his back shoulder right here and his back hip are closer, and then his front shoulder and his front hip are far away. Now you can see a good example of this if you go to Google, and Chris Davis is a good guy to look at for this. Maybe we'll break him down sometime really soon. But if you watch him, he's probably one of the best, I think, in getting that angle, getting that side bend, and he really allows him to rotate fully and up through balls, especially low pitches. And you can see Will Clark here, and a good timing too. I mean, his pitches, if we can actually see the blur of the pitch right here, so the timing of contact on the bat is really good here. But you can see him just try to stand up out of it. He can't turn anymore. So there's a lot of arm action at the end, which is good. We want that release. But turning through that swing isn't really something he's able to do. I mean, it's all arms at that point. We can barely see his last name from this side view if you look at his jersey. So there's some rotational issues that he wasn't able to really overcome. Number one, because of his front foot or the landing of his front side, but that had mostly to do with the fact that he was so tilted over the plate that he just wasn't able to turn. Again, Chaz talks about a lot of the posture stuff in a couple articles and demonstrations that he's done in the past, and that side bend is really, really tough to get to if you're so hunched over from the beginning. And unfortunately, I think that this was one of his biggest flaws, if not the biggest. I think that he was obviously super talented, super coordinated guy. You wouldn't be at that level if you weren't already those things. The difference maker between the elite and the good average Major League Baseball player, I think, are these types of things. They're the nitpicky angles and postures and things like that allow all these guys to either be good, and then the good guys are allowed to be great. And so when you look at Bautista, a good posture guy, and Chris Davis, and most players today, Tulo and Donaldson and Hanley, and all these guys that are really, really good, you're not going to see as many posture issues. And McCutcheon. So again, here's a good angle of him. Again, still trying to get that side bend, but he's got to stand up to do it. And then because of that, he starts to lift his eyes and other things like that. But like I said, he was able to overcome it, still have a great career. So, when we point out these things on these guys on these Tuesday breakdowns, we want to be really clear that, these guys are great players. And we're not trying to take anything away from them. We just want to point out that, even the great players could have been maybe a little bit better. And, Will Clark is a good example of that. He's got such a tremendous backside pull. You can really see I think that's the best thing he does. You can really see the length in that back leg. His back foot comes off the ground when it needs to, as opposed to some people like to cheat, and because maybe they're trying to do it, they force a little bit. But you can see the length in here. There's no forcing his back foot. This is all athletic and super explosive, which is awesome. Another guy who likes to, you see a big leaguer kind of lengthen that front arm a little bit, but he's able to, again, bring it back to a good position at contact. You can see him still get the barrel. So those guys that have that arm bar at the beginning have a really, really nice understanding of where the barrel is above their head, so they are able to get the barrel around at the right time. You can even see in this swing, you can see that blur coming from behind his shoulder. So again, something that he does really well that a lot of coaches today are afraid of, and you can see how he keeps the barrel above his head as long as possible, and then once he really engages his hips and his shoulders start to turn, that's going to pull the bat down in that order. So if you notice that order, what I did right there with those arrows, that's an order you should be looking for in your players. Okay, you're going to see the hip turn first, then you're going to see the shoulders catch, and then you're going to see the barrel catch, and that's kind of the order of operations in a good swing. Okay, you're going to see the 1, 2, 3. Okay, and those are the things that turn the most in a good swing. And because of that distance, and if you saw my Ken Boyer breakdown a couple Tuesdays ago, the thing that I knocked on him the most was the fact that he allowed his barrel to get to kind of this position already away from his hands, whereas we can see Will Clark's barrel still kind of up above his head there. So he's able to get all this extra distance between those 2 points to really generate that speed. And I wrote an article about the rule of the flail a couple years ago, and that's what this is about. He's able to get he has the distance to create the flail, to have enough space to pick up speed behind his shoulder, and then as he gets behind the ball, he's already at top speed. So the idea to get that top speed behind the barrel, behind the ball before we make contact is where we want to be at, and then that speed just carries over into the turn of the body weight, and then here he is at a really nice contact position. I mean, it's right behind his front foot. We can clearly see his eyes down, at least we think. For the most part, we can see his eyes and nose pointed down to the contact position. So coaches, if you're wondering why these guys don't miss the ball that much, or when they do hit the ball, it's off the good part of the bat, that's why. And then we can see his extension is great. I mean, you can see the length in his arms. He really allows that release and extension to happen. But again, I think the turn is just shut down too early, and he can't get around enough. So it was really, really a great example. We had a guy email me who wanted to see Will Clark swing. So here you go. If you want to, feel free to email me, and I'll do some special requests from time to time so that we can, everybody can kind of see their favorite players and kind of what we think about them. But a lot of stuff that Will Clark did was fantastic. Super aggressive lower half, really nice long back leg and back foot hip rotation. But the front side and the posture, I think, really hindered him, kept him from maybe being more of a prolific home run guy. I think he only had 200-something home runs. Like I said, I'll put the link down below. But I think that if he'd have hit more home runs, maybe he'd be in the Hall of Fame. He was in the College Hall of Fame and a lot of different other great honors, which any of us would be happy to have. But maybe that elusive Major League Hall of Fame was was not allowed because of some of the things he did with his swing. I don't know. That's just a thought. So thank you guys for listening today. Super excited to do this special request. Please send me some more if you guys are interested at the Baseball Rebellion. And again, thanks for listening, and look forward to doing this again. Thanks, guys.